welcome to today's Zscaler event announcing new innovations in the area of digital experience monitoring. My name is Chris Kozub, and I will be your host for today's event. Now, during the next 60 minutes, you're going to hear from Zscaler leaders as they discuss how we are solving real-world challenges associated with application performance and digital experience monitoring. We'll talk about the new innovations we've developed to specifically address unified communication applications such as Microsoft Teams and, of course, Zoom. And you'll also hear from some of our leading partners on the integration work we have done with them to make it easier for you to solve application performance issues. And finally, we'll share some examples of customers that have benefited from these integrations. Now, given this is a live event, you have the ability to ask real-time questions of our speakers. Simply to ask a question, just type the question in the Q&A window. Now, I'll do my best to incorporate as many of those questions as possible. Now, I think it's time to get started. So, first of all, we're going to hear from an expert on this topic, the CEO, Chairman, and founder of Zscaler, Jay Chaudhry. Jay, welcome to the show.
Chris, thank you. I'm excited to share this innovation with the audience.
Well, we're excited that you're here. So, Jay, Zscaler is certainly well known as a cloud security leader, but not all of our viewers certainly know us for these capabilities. I thought it would be interesting for you to take us through a little bit of the history of how Zscaler got here.
Indeed. I started this company in 2008 with a simple mission. Any user, anywhere, should be able to have secure, fast, and reliable access to applications. IT leaders are driving digital transformation. They are embracing SaaS, public cloud, and mobility. That's changing how security is done. That's changing how networking is done. Every IT team wants to make sure that the user can have access to right applications. What do users want? Well, users want seamless access. Access that's fast, that's secure, and that's highly reliable, whether they're working from home or they're working from the office, whether they're going to the data center for applications or they're going to public cloud or a SaaS application. How do you make it happen? Well, the old world, which had hub and spoke networking model and castle and moat security model, is no longer relevant. That's too slow. That creates lateral threat movement. So we came up with a new notion, which is opposite of which is opposite of network security. We call it Zero Trust. Zscaler built Zero Trust Exchange, which is like an intelligent switchboard. We connect the right user to the right application or service after we validate who they are and after we check the right policy so they have access to the right application. This is fundamental for security in today's world, and it's important for users to deliver fast experience. To tell you a little bit about Zscaler, we became a public company in March of 2018. We're one of the fastest growing cloud security company, growing in the 55 to 60% range every year. We are very much an international player with over 50% of our sales coming from outside the US. About 35% of Fortune 500 companies depend upon Zscaler to secure their digital transformation. Let me walk through how we built and why we built the Zscaler Digital Experience service. You all know our key offerings, Zscaler Internet Experience and Zscaler Internet Access and Zscaler Private Access. They allow you to take direct path to one of the 150 data centers around the globe. The shortest path means you get great experience. So you start with ZIA. All of our customers have ZIA service. They're getting great experience. But every so often, there will be some issues somewhere along the path. And we've analyzed data for some of our large customers. Out of 4 issues we hear about performance somewhere, 3 have nothing to do with Zscaler. It is an issue maybe with the last mile, perhaps it's Wi-Fi, or somewhere something else. That actually led us to build a service. Let me explain to you the typical challenge we hear from a customer. In fact, this was a dialogue with the CIO I had about 6 or 8 months ago. And he said, my CEO landed in Sydney, checked in a hotel, connected to internet, and Office 365 was slow. He called IT for help. Where can IT start? Well, IT had tools for the branch office to the data center, but not for this new world. The laptop may have some issues. Maybe the guest Wi-Fi in the hotel is slow. Perhaps one of the 10 hops over the internet that takes the person to the application has packet loss. It is very hard. Even the application could be slow. So that's the problem somebody had to solve. And Zscaler was in a natural place, in a natural position to solve this problem. Why is that? Well, we're already sitting in the traffic path between the application and the user. The traffic flows through us for policy enforcement. So it was natural for us to start collecting telemetry so we could actually know if the endpoint was having issues, or the network was having issues such as packet loss, or perhaps the application was slow. So you must understand all 3 areas to provide full end-to-end user experience. By collecting this telemetry in real time, we actually compute digital experience score for every user for X dozen applications you may want to track. So you no longer have to struggle to find out what's wrong where. You can actually pinpoint what's happening and why. This screen helps you show how ZDX helps you figure out these issues. We start with user experience score. You can roll it up by application, by location, and you can take it to the company level so you understand your company's overall experience. And you can drill it down. You can see if a user has issues and why. Maybe there's certain issues at a given location, maybe in New York City. We understand that, we pinpoint it. Maybe the local telco is having some experiences. We figure out if a certain SaaS application has issues, and potentially there's a packet loss issue somewhere in the path. By letting you figure out where the issues are, you can easily figure out what the solution needs to be done. I'm excited that our customers are embracing ZDX at a very rapid pace. In fact, it is the fastest growing service in our history. We've seen about 200% quarter-over-quarter growth. It's a highly scalable solution. What else would you expect from Zscaler? It stands for Zenith of Scalability. We've got customers who have over 100,000 users being monitored from a single company. And the best part is, deploying ZDX is very, very easy. You got the lightweight agent already sitting on your desktop or your laptop. It's a matter of simply turning it on. As I conclude, I would say that our primary focus is to make sure you can have secure, fast, and reliable access to any application from anywhere, while our core services like ZIA, ZPA deliver it because we provide the fast and the shortest path. But ZDX allows you to make sure you can pinpoint where the issues are, so you can deliver fast experience. You can also deliver reliable experience because if there are issues, you can help them resolve pretty quickly. So very excited to help our customers meet the goal of delighting their users.
Jay, that's very impressive to hear, and especially this stat of 200% growth. Very impressive, certainly in terms of where we are. Our capabilities around ZDX certainly demonstrate Zscaler's ability to understand the challenges that our customers are facing and help resolve them. I thought, as I mentioned at the start, this is of course a live event, so we have the opportunity to take live questions here. I've got my trusty little iPad here that's connected to the back office. So Jay, I'm going to come to you with a question right now, and that first question is from Kim. And the question is ZDX a standalone product, or is it licensed with other security services?
We believe in giving choices to our customers. ZDX can be bought standalone, or ZDX can be easily added to your current products like ZI and ZPA. You can choose it either way.
Excellent. So it sounds like a lot of flexibility there. We have time for a couple more questions, Jay. So another question from Sean. We're looking at Zscaler for securing our remote workforce. He highlights especially from ransomware. So how does this monitoring of digital experiences actually help the security team?
Yeah. As COVID happened, all of us had to shift and start working from home. And I heard from so many leaders of networking that there's so many issues people are having, and there are no tools to figure out what's going on. There are plenty of tools for users sitting in the branch office and trying to go to the data center. Now, users are not sitting in the branch office, they're sitting at home. And they're not even going to your data center. They're going to some application in cloud or somewhere. So we are tracking end-to-end experience. We know when the connection started, we know how much time the network took, we know how much time the application took. So we're an ideal use case to figure out this performance, not just from home or office or coffee shop or branch office. It's everywhere. Remember, our focus was always user could be anywhere, application could be anywhere, and we must deliver secure and fast experience.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense, Jay. Yeah. We're going to take one more question from the audience. Again, as a reminder, put those questions into the Q&A box. This question comes in from Sam. Now, Jay, I'm not sure of Sam's profile, but I don't believe that he's a CIO. But I know you spend a lot of times with CIOs. And Sam is asking, what are the useful metrics provided by ZDX that CIOs can benefit from? So my guess is there's probably some ability for Sam to help guide his management chain here.
Yeah, so it is very interesting that in the past few years, #1 priority of most CIOs have become user experience. Now, the challenge ends up being, how do you measure user experience? There could be 2 escalations coming from someone in Singapore or wherever. So there needs to be a way of quantifying it.
Yeah.
So one of the most innovative things that we have done is quantified it as a user experience score at the user level, location level, and the company level. And you can track if your performance is getting better or not for the entire company or for a given location. So you have plenty of data, not just data, meaningful and actionable information.
That's excellent. Yeah, I noticed in some of the content that you shared, it gave an example of some of those scores from good to medium to high-level score.
That's right.
Now let's, well, actually, before we do that, Jay, I do want to just take a moment to thank you for joining us today. It's certainly been very insightful for the team here and our audience to learn really the Zscaler story. So now let's talk more about how Zscaler has helped customers overcome the challenges of ensuring they remain productive and discuss some of the ways in which we're continuing to innovate in this area. So to do that, it is my pleasure to introduce and welcome Dhaval. Dhaval, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Chris.
It's great to have you here. Now, Dhaval, you're the product leader in this area, and I know that you've been hard at work listening to our customers to make sure that ultimately we innovate to help solve their problems. So, and I know that you've got a lot up your sleeve today in terms of great announcements that we're bringing to market. So I want to jump right into that. Dhaval, why don't you take us through what we're actually announcing today?
Sure. So at Zscaler, we have focused on improving user experiences from the very start, as Jay mentioned, simplifying and enhancing their application access, experience, and delighting our customers. With over 150 point of presence across the globe, we are bringing the edge closer to the users and delivering faster connectivity to the applications. We also have direct peering relationship with service providers and application vendors like Microsoft, Google, et cetera, that give users low latency and faster access to the applications. But digital experiences are not linear for enterprise users and depend on multiple factors. It's not just fast access and low latency connectivity. Poor user experiences are a product of issues with three variables that could impact end users. One, networking, such as users' home Wi-Fi, first mile ISP, cloud service provider, and upstream connectivity. Two, applications. Every SaaS vendor has a health dashboard today that tells you when things are black and white, but there are always regional or tenant-specific grayout scenarios. Three, endpoint, the devices that your users are using, such as laptops and iPads. In 2017, when we were evaluating building ZDX, we did a detailed analysis of all user experience issues seen by our customers, whether large and small, and findings were quite revealing. 80% of the issues were due to upstream connectivity problems to the applications, or home networking issues, or first mile connectivity problems, or SD-WAN misconfiguration issues. Or they would be poor user experiences were a product of device problems like high CPU memory utilization or Wi-Fi issues in corporate or in the home network. And to handle these issues, most IT teams had deployed too many siloed monitoring products that do not share context with each other. For example, laptop and desktop monitoring tools, network monitoring tools, APM tools, service delivery tools. Security architectures like ZTNA make your apps invisible to traditional monitoring tools as well, and understanding user experience issues became even harder. We built ZDX to address these challenges. Zscaler had the best vantage point to provide these end-to-end monitoring needs for the organization today. We sit in the data path between any source, which is typically a user, and any destination, which is typically a private application such as SAP or SaaS application like Salesforce or SharePoint. We have massive global cloud footprint to deliver monitoring irrespective of user and application's location. While ZDX is built to operate as an autonomous product, Zscaler platform gives it massive scale and ease of deployment benefits. When world moved to mobile computing with iPads, tablet PCs, the traditional pack files became ineffective to enforce security controls. We built an agent, Zscaler Client Connector, to forward traffic to our cloud with a vision to have it as one unified agent for all Zscaler products and services. Today, we can glean monitoring insights from over 25 million endpoint agents running on end-user devices that are already deployed with our Zscaler services. We are translating end-user experience into a scoring framework, as Jay mentioned, which is called ZDX Score, which works at a micro level, for example, at a user device, or at a macro level for entire organization or geo or application level, which helps you find issues that could be impacting an entire company versus a particular user. It is helping our customers not only reduce mean time to detection, but help lower the number of tickets that get opened by employees in context of poor user experience. We made it very easy to deploy and manage it since all the heavy lifting is done by the cloud. We have predefined templates for common SaaS applications like Salesforce, Box, etc. And our client connector is already running on your user's computer as part of security services deployment. Organizations such as Sanofi are able to deploy and get actionable insights from over 70,000 users globally within a span of 1 week due to this very reason. You will hear from Matthias, who is head of global connectivity at Sanofi, shortly about this. Keeping the modern workplace productive is key initiative of CIOs. ZDX is helping CIOs get better insights into productivity through ZDX Score and understand the bottlenecks and also remediate these faster, bringing down mean time to recovery. Take the case of a large clinical research organization with over 20,000 employees. The new SVP of IT was given the charter to optimize user experiences and improve employee productivity. Once ZDX was deployed, they saw an 18-point gain in the overall NPS score framework, which this SVP of IT rolled out within a matter of few months, which was set out to monitor end user experiences. Since its introduction less than a year ago, ZDX has become the fastest growing cloud service within our Zscaler portfolio. Today, we are collecting and analyzing more than 8 billion telemetry data points across the globe, which means we can build actionable intelligence by feeding this performance data to our machine learning engine. We are measuring digital experience of organization and employees from 208 countries across the globe, which helps us baseline data for every country and city across the globe. With more than 8,000 destinations monitored worldwide, we continue to expand mapping business application insights to user experience. In simple terms, these numbers are translating to improving employee productivity and better understanding of where do bottlenecks lie in terms of end user experience. Our pace of innovation with ZDX has remained relentless. We have released over 150 features in less than a year, and continuing that tradition with a new feature release every month. We are excited to expand our offering with new enhancements that help IT and operations team stay agile and keep the promise of delivering great collaboration experiences with Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and Microsoft 365 services. UCaaS monitoring provides comprehensive insights into digital user experiences and performance issues with Teams and Zoom meetings for enterprise user at a user level, as well as at a meeting level. With Zero Trust monitoring, you get complete visibility and performance insights into Zero Trust architecture, such as those deployed with Zscaler Private Access, which are securing access to applications like SAP, Oracle, etc., running in your data center or in public cloud. We are also expanding partnership ecosystem, not only with collaboration partners such as Microsoft and Zoom, but also with leading ITSM partners such as ServiceNow to enhance digital experience for the distributed workforce. Let's talk a bit about what are we enhancing in terms of UCaaS monitoring. Typically, troubleshooting UCaaS application is even harder for service desk due to the very nature of these applications. They are real-time. You either rely on provider call quality dashboards that gives you very crude data with no device or application context, or you would need to reverse engineer every user's experience by asking them to run troubleshooting tools from their device, which is not scalable and makes employee very frustrated. Zscaler customers can now get a single integrated view into all the meeting metrics, such as video, audio, sharing, call quality metrics, and ZDX Core that are tied to MOS Core, which is more relevant metric for real-time applications, along with network path and device health in one single dashboard for meeting solutions such as MS Teams and Zoom. You can look at health of SaaS apps such as Microsoft Teams or Zoom through ZDX, as well as the network path from users' home all the way to the destination service, and endpoint performance such as CPU, memory performance, and which software on your user's device is potentially having an adverse impact on Zoom meetings performance that you might be doing. With new enhancements, ZDX can integrate with a customer's UCaaS tenant for Teams and Zoom and fetch additional API-based telemetry data at a meeting or an attendee level that augments detailed network, endpoint, and app visibility that Zscaler provides and brings single pane of glass experience that service desk, application owners, networking, security teams can view now. Now let's talk about Zero Trust visibility and why it is such a big deal. Not everything is SaaS when it comes to business critical application. ZTNA architectures are being rapidly adopted within the enterprise today as they minimize your attack surface and make your critical apps become invisible to attackers, but also to the monitoring tools that you might be running within your networks or even on users' devices. Many of these private apps are hosted in public data center or in your own data centers and secured by ZPA service, for example, and remain dark over the internet. And troubleshooting user experience issues is harder due to legacy network designs, high latencies within the corporate network, or even due to suboptimal deployment of ZTNA gateways or architecture. With this new innovation and without compromising the principles of ZTNA, we can now provide full hop-by-hop view of every single point in the data path to private applications and tell you where exactly employee experience is impacted, including suboptimal routing within your networks, upstream ISP issues, user access and authorization issues to these applications, and it also offers you a complete package and ease of mind when moving to Zero Trust architecture. And we're not stopping there. We have even more innovations we would like to share with you. We have recently introduced a new comprehensive ZDX for Microsoft 365 offering for enterprises. The offering provides comprehensive digital experience monitoring for M365 search services such as Outlook and OneDrive in a single package with out-of-the-box templates that would help you deploy monitoring of ZDX services within few clicks for your entire user fleet. Any company that relies on M365 services for their employee productivity and collaboration can take advantage of our unparalleled peering and edge connectivity with Microsoft, but also augment it with the ZDX monitoring now. We are also expanding our partner ecosystem with ITSM and ITOM offerings of ServiceNow, which is used by many of large enterprise service desk and workspace teams. Whether it is automated alert notification of digital experience issues using webhooks to the IT service management tool, or enriching context of existing tickets to reduce mean time to resolution, as well as automated ITSM workflows. We look forward to more of you joining this proven new platform approach towards improving digital experiences, and we are eager to help you get started. At the end of this session, we will go deeper with a technical breakout where we will show you ZDX demos and address top-of-the-mind questions from this discussion.
Dhaval, I know a lot of our audience here is going to be very interested in that deeper dive that happens directly after this, so I'm glad you were able to give that a plug. A couple of things that stood out to me there, 150 features in a year. That's pretty impressive. So clearly your team and yourself have been hard at work.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we are releasing so many things so rapidly that we have stayed on top of the customer feature request and bringing new innovation like we talked about today.
Well, and obviously today is a big part of that. I know it's a big culmination for how we bring a lot of these capabilities to market here. So, Dhaval, what we want to do right now is turn to our audience for questions. I've had a number of questions come in as you've been talking, so clearly you have hit a nerve with the audience on a lot of topics that they wanted to hear about. So the first question here comes in from Jason, and this question is there a more efficient way of troubleshooting ZPA issues? He cites that Macs cannot log in with their Apple ID on setup. Some of their Microsoft apps from the store won't allow initial sign-on, et cetera. So maybe address ZDX as it relates to ZPA.
Yeah, sure. So a couple of things on this front, right? A lot of customers who are migrating from traditional VPN-based architecture to ZTNA architecture, the key difference is ZTNA is all tied to the identity of the user. And a lot of organizations, if they don't set the authentication correctly, end users will have different kind of issues. So one thing which we do is we translate the errors and issues we see in ZPA through the lens of ZDX as well. So people who are monitoring the performance can see those issues. In addition to that, as I mentioned, a lot of problems in ZTNA deployments happen because it's a very different deployment. You end up undersizing your SDP gateways like app connectors in our case, or you will have connectors deployed far from applications. So we are able to find these kind of issues which are very hard to find otherwise.
Excellent. I know that, and obviously we've announced today this broader support with ZPA as well. So that I'm sure will factor into helping Jason here with some of the challenges that he's faced. Next question comes in from John. John, thanks for your question. As a reminder to others, any questions you have, please go ahead and submit those into the Q&A box on your screen. John has a question around issues with iOS apps, and he asked, will ZDX provide the insight for my techs to fix these issues? He cites that user experience on iOS is what is sometimes preventing broader rollout of these devices.
So today, ZDX, it depends. You can address some of it today. You can actually look at what applications you want to monitor. If it's the same set of applications, you can get the network path telemetry, application telemetry from ZDX. Today, we provide ZDX coverage for PC and Mac version of our client connector. And in future, we plan to address mobile form factors too, which will give you more telemetry on the end user device as well.
Sounds like that could be a stay tuned for another discussion like this.
Absolutely.
So I know that I will look forward to that. I'm going to take us into the domain of the public sector now. We have a question from Brian. Brian asks, when will ZDX be available on the FedRAMP side?
So this is something we are actively working on. I would say in the first half of calendar year 2022, we are targeting this to be available.
Okay.
If you have more questions on specific date timelines, please reach out to your account team and we can work with you.
Makes perfect sense. Obviously, I know a very important sector and segment for us. We're going to keep rolling here because the questions are there and we certainly have time to address them. So this question is from Heath. And Heath asks, is Zscaler collecting ZDX data from all users with Zscaler Client Connector installed, even if they aren't a subscriber to ZDX?
No. So we collect this data when you have the ZDX subscription enabled from within your organization. So as Jay and I talked about earlier, ZDX is very simple to deploy because if you have our agent running on the user's device, users don't need to take any action. They don't need to install a new agent or a browser plugin or take any action, like even re-authenticate with the service. Once an organization have the required number of licenses, the ZDX capability gets enabled on the agent. And you can decide to slow roll this service for your users. So you can say, I want to deploy it only for people who are remote working and not for people who are in the corporate network. So that option to deploy it by AD group or department is available in the product, and telemetry is only collected when you explicitly define the policy to collect telemetry for those users.
Got it. So ultimately what you're saying here is that there's a lot of control that's placed in the hands of IT, effectively, right, to make these decisions.
Absolutely.
Very good. I have a question that's come in from Eileen, and this one, I'm sure you'll do a great job answering it. I may test a little bit of our thought process here, but the question is, how does ZDX support the expectations of SASE or SSE, so Secure Services Edge, which of course refers to what Gartner is working on, of course SASE, broader framework. Will it meet all of the objectives anticipated to meet the Secure Services Edge guidelines?
Yes. So absolutely, if you read through the evolution of SASE to Secure Service Edge, Edge basically means you are bringing the policy enforcement in the security closer to the user.
Right.
So traffic is not suboptimally routed, but you do not own the data path on the internet, right? So in traditional corporate network, you basically could instrument your network to understand the network latency and optimize those things.
Yeah.
When employees are connecting over internet to the nearest hop, right, that going up to the first hop itself, we see a lot of suboptimal routing from ISPs, for example. And a lot of time, as you think about large SaaS services, right? Sometimes even on their backbone, there could be suboptimal routing. So our intent is to have this as a complementary service on the broader SSE platform. So SSE focuses primarily on security, making sure that users are secure no matter they're coming from.
Yeah.
But if you adopt security, cloud security, and that have adverse impact on the end user experience, that defeats the purpose of moving to the cloud. So it is very, very complementary to the overarching principles of SASE.
Dhaval, I'm going to, on behalf of Eileen, give you an A+ in that answer. Eileen, certainly if you have more questions, Dhaval is a great resource to follow up. We're going to keep moving here. Question from Tony, when will ZDX support ZPA applications?
So this is available now. That is one of the announcements we are making today. So if you already are a customer, please work with your account team to get it activated. But this capability is available to all the ZDX customers now.
I can hear the champagne corks popping from your product managers in the other room. Very excited about that enhancement. Last question that we have time for in this part of our segment is from Suresh. How long is the collected data retained, and how is users' privacy, specifically he cites GDPR compliance, how is that privacy ensured by ZDX?
So this is a great question because as we build any product or service in Zscaler, not just ZDX, complying with GDPR or equivalent compliance program is a key priority. We don't release products without that.
Yeah.
So as you can understand, ZDX is a telemetry-based product. So we are collecting more telemetry, like I can figure out which location of the world you're coming from based on the location service coordinates that your device is returning to me. If you disable that, then we fall back to an egress IP address. We also collect things like host names and user, tie it to the user, what devices user are using. But from day one, we actually have provided an option to obfuscate these controls. Yeah. For example, with the new UCaaS monitoring that we have rolled out, by default, we keep the meeting IDs and meeting names obfuscated. So a IT member won't figure out that what meetings the CEO is having, for example. So these kind of checks and balances are built into product from day one. And that is one of the reasons some of our very large European customers have rolled out, though they have very stringent GDPR controls.
Absolutely. So again, kind of a message here of control that ultimately is in place for IT to ensure
Yes.
a lot of this kind of regulatory compliance is met.
Absolutely.
Dhaval, I want to take a moment to thank you for these insights and really congratulate you and the team on this impressive milestone. Again, those 150 features in a year, capstone with all that we're announcing today. I'm sure we have a lot of happy customers out there. So thanks again for being here. So now let's actually, talking about customers, let's hear from some Zscaler customers on how they've used ZDX in the real world environments to solve these challenges. Let's take a look.
DLA Piper is one of the largest global law firms. We operate from the UK, but we have offices in more than 40 countries. We're an organisation with a long history, particularly of rapid growth and mergers in the last 15 years, and with quite a complex back-end IT infrastructure. Our focus over the last 3 years has been to shift our IT estate towards a more modern estate. We've been focusing on security, modernization, performance, and digital. And we're in the course of re-engineering our enterprise systems from the core to the outside. We started our journey with Zscaler in 2019 as part of a broader move to cloud and a zero trust architecture. And we began by implementing ZIA and ZCC for the client connector. Then, of course, in 2020, COVID happened, and we transitioned thousands and thousands of our people to working from home, as many people did at the time. We were also partway through implementing an SD-WAN at that time. What we found in 2020 was that the location was less important, as people were no longer in controlled office environments. And we found that lawyers are very time poor, and our issue was one of line of sight connectivity, a line of sight right down to the user's device. We experienced a massive increase in demand for video. We rapidly rolled out Zoom, and then we followed up with Teams. And we found that we had client interaction, court proceedings in various countries around the world, all shifting online at the same time. The result was an enhanced sensitivity amongst our staff to performance issues. So latency across the globe, within country, jitter, etc., were all headaches for us. And the causes could be many and varied. It could be people's Wi-Fi, it could be their broadband, uninstalled Windows updates, memory usage on the device, or the family on Netflix. Our solution was pretty straightforward for us, actually. We already had the Zscaler agent deployed on our endpoints, and we had seen no performance impact from deploying that. We were therefore in a good position to switch on ZDX to get a good sense of the end-to-end digital experience monitoring. We've got that service in early life support now, and frankly, the take-up's been really strong. So our service desk, actually first, second, and third line, have all taken to ZDX well. We find it's really useful for diagnostics. Certainly triaging on the first line is made much more easy. Our first time fix numbers have improved, and we found that we can eliminate and diagnose issues faster. I even use it. I personally find it useful if I'm in meetings with some of our C-suite people, and I can see what's going on in real time by individual. We are able to use it to focus on the particular apps that are important to us. So Outlook, Zoom, Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint Online, those kinds of things. And we really like the fact that we get an insight into hops on the network, so we can get to a kind of a 90% accurate diagnosis pretty rapidly. Our next step is to look at the service scores to understand degradation as it happens, so that we can be more proactive in digital experience monitoring. So we've implemented ServiceNow for ITSM, and we'd like to integrate ZDX into that. Our goal is to drive more self-service and self-diagnosis into our users. We'd like to do that by surfacing personalized performance data and digital experience scores through either ServiceNow or SharePoint Online. We found that because we already had the agent and the infrastructure in place, our time to value for Zdx was really very rapid for us. So we're really looking forward to continuing the journey with Zdx.
Fortunately, Sanofi has started the network transformation before the COVID crisis has been impacting the world globally. The intent in 2019 was simply to retire the legacy on-premise proxy architecture and improve user experience using internal applications remotely while improving security. Zero Trust was not the broadly known concept as it is today. Luckily, we have been able to complete the rollout of both modules CIA and CPA in July 2020. Starting with the lockdown in early 2020 and still today, about 75% of all our employees are working from home, either partly or full-time. Our initial concern was about our internal network capacity and internet bandwidth. Reality proved this never became our challenge. There have been several examples of users complaining about application performance, mainly linked to Office 365 and our online collaboration solution. In many cases, the root cause was a lack of bandwidth or high latency with their local broadband at home. Before we have started the deployment of Zdx, it took us always quite a bit of time to confirm the bottleneck, and we have been lacking end-to-end visibility. Now with Zdx, it's an easy task to detect the issue, and we are going to enable Service Desk Agent to make that assessment on their own. Clearly, it would not solve the issue immediate, but we are able to give some advice to the users to fix it. The rollout of 97,000 devices was pretty easy and took us about 2 weeks in total. As we had already deployed Zscaler Client Connector on all devices, it was basically just an enablement on the Zscaler portal. We are mainly covering 2 use cases today. One, simplified troubleshooting of individual user problems. 2, proactive application and site monitoring end-to-end. Zdx has a strong development roadmap. Just recently, we enabled the integration of Teams into Zdx. This allows us to measure the quality of calls within Zdx and to proactively act in case the connection is poor for a specific region or country. Overall, the potential use cases for Zdx are growing and growing as Zdx matures and we are getting familiar with the solution. Sanofi is happy to work with Zscaler to ensure that our users are productive and have a great experience accessing our applications.
Wow, it's always inspiring to see how these technologies are helping our customers. I'd like to express just really a big thank you to each of our customers for their willingness to share their insights today. Now, I'd like to introduce our next and final speaker today. Punit Minocha is the Executive Vice President of Business Development here at Zscaler, and he's here to tell us more about the work that Zscaler is doing with some of our technology ecosystem partners to further enhance our capabilities in the area of digital experience monitoring. Punit, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Chris. A pleasure.
Now, Punit, why don't you provide our audience with a deeper view on the work that Zscaler has done with a number of these providers, really to help go bigger, deeper with a lot of this great functionality?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And I believe you may have heard Dhaval touch on this. But in general, it is really great to see so many organizations realizing the benefits of digital transformation by using Zscaler Digital Experience as part of the Zero Trust Exchange. Now, we haven't done it alone. Rather, we have worked with a number of key technology leaders to provide a compelling offering based on feedback from you, our customers. I'm happy to talk about these collaborations with some of our key partners today. First, we have worked closely with Microsoft to build the underlying data service that allows ZDX to rapidly scale to analyze a record volume of customer data, and at the same time, keep up the pace of new capability development for the changing needs of our customers. Second, we have integrated with collaboration applications such as Zoom and Microsoft Teams to provide IT teams a single integrated view of health metrics. For example, our latest integration with Zoom allows joint customers to proactively identify Zoom participants that are having network or cloud issues and pinpoint where in the network path those issues are occurring. Third, we have worked with ServiceNow to empower service operations and help desk teams so they have critical visibility of user experience issues and the ability to quickly close tickets and resolve issues within the ServiceNow dashboard itself. With work from anywhere and rapid adoption of cloud services, ticket volumes have grown over 35% this past year, and IT is more challenged in optimizing user experience for maximizing productivity. The new integrations that we just announced provide enriched context and more real-time data for root cause analysis to speed up incident resolution. The integrations provide unparalleled observability, making it easier for IT and operations teams to identify and respond to user experience incidents. Now let's hear from some of these key partners that have helped us make ZDX such a powerful tool for organizations undergoing digital transformation.
ServiceNow is very excited to be partnering with Zscaler to provide our mutual customers with powerful solutions for what is quickly becoming one of the most complex areas of service operations. Providing great experiences for all users to all applications, regardless of where they're working. The pressures of the pandemic have substantially accelerated the already widespread transition to cloud and SaaS applications. And they've made the hybrid workplace a reality for almost all. Users and organizations are increasingly accessing Office, collaborations, video conferencing, and other applications they need to do their jobs over the internet. And they're often using unmanaged personal devices from their homes and other remote locations. Now, all the internet hops involved in accessing these applications can generate no end to availability, performance, and even security challenges. Given this new world of hybrid work, and without the kind of network visibility often associated with users being in central locations, IT is very challenged to quickly identify and resolve problems. End user productivity and satisfaction can be badly impacted. Now, the integration with Zscaler ZDX, delivering critical visibility to ServiceNow, extends the power to help customers seamlessly manage these types of incidents across this complex landscape of the hybrid workplace. Companies of all kinds, all sizes, in all industries, including both providers and consumers of SaaS applications, can benefit tremendously from getting reliable, always-on access to their entire application portfolio. And all of their users will benefit, and this is just the start of our partnership. We see an opportunity to substantially add more value, and we will continue to deliver mutual integrations that will help our customers be more productive. Thank you.
The process of real-time analysis of web-scale streams can be daunting, especially as it aggregates over thousands of enterprise or government customers, each one with hundreds of thousands of employees. In this context, driving near real-time analytics is critical to deliver the value IT teams are looking for. At Microsoft, we are proud that we've worked closely with Zscalers, ranging from selecting the proper data model to trying several combinations of our underlying configuration, and the most recent software advances we've introduced with Azure Data Explorer service. We've leveraged the experience we accumulated in powering massive analytical services, both at Microsoft and with our partners and customers. This led us to find the best fit to power up Zscaler's multi-tenant platform as a service while meeting stringent availability, scalability, security, and elasticity requirements. And just as importantly, reducing time to market by allowing Zscaler's team to focus on building a massively scalable service from end to end. This means instrumenting, collecting, aggregating, analyzing all the real-time flows of otherwise disparate telemetry from multiple sources. IT managers can now proactively pinpoint potential issues before they are even detected by the employees themselves. We're glad to see that Zdx is ready to tackle the explosive volumes of real-time data streams our mutual customers are facing in this new era of hybrid modern workplace. We're honored that our technologies can contribute as a key element in the value chain to power up such a massive real-time data crunching solution. Customers should love the value that they get from this service. Zdx on ADX is an excellent example of what the power of the cloud can enable when cloud-native architectures work together seamlessly. No wonder why so many of them are already coming forward to share their success stories. Take Sienna, for example, who are able to improve their ability to pinpoint the root cause 95% of the time, up for 25% before using Zdx. No wonder why they see this solution as a critical service, enabling a work-from-anywhere experience. Impressive indeed. Lastly, I'm glad about our partnership journey and extremely excited about the benefits and huge value customers can get. Only last week, we announced Azure Data Explorer is becoming a central part of Microsoft's strategic analytics offering, Azure Synapse Analytics, which further highlights the strategic nature of this collaboration. We look forward to serving thousands of joint customers through Zdx and continue collaborating via incremental cutting-edge technology improvements.
Enterprises have been embracing cloud as part of their digital transformation journey. And for many companies, shifting enterprise communication to the cloud has become mission critical. As work from home normalizes, companies are struggling to adapt and quickly supply their teams with unified communication solutions. Zoom helps people stay connected so they get more done together. From meetings, chat, phone, and webinar to conference system rooms and online events, Zoom powers all your communication needs. Our secure, reliable video platform offers a high-quality experience that's easy to manage, use, and customize. Zoom and Zscaler work together to help companies provide fast, secure, cloud-first unified communication to their distributed workforces. With Zscaler's one-click solution for Zoom, enterprises can confidently shift to a UCaaS platform protected by cloud-first security and delivered in one frictionless access experience across desktop, mobile, and tablet. With the recent enhancements to our interoperability solution, Zscaler now uses Zoom APIs to provide IT teams a single integrated view of Zoom with call quality, network path performance, and user device health metrics for each and every user. This empowers our customers to proactively identify which Zoom participants are having network or cloud issues and where in the network path those issues are occurring. The Zoom and Zscaler partnership journey has just begun, and I'm very excited about how both organizations are customer-obsessed and focused. We look forward to helping thousands of customers through Zscaler Digital Experience. Thank you.
That was a great overview of how we can solve so much together to ensure a great digital experience for our shared customers and make the transition to digital transformation a smooth and seamless process. I want to thank Microsoft, Zoom, and ServiceNow for their continued support, and stay tuned for additional enhancements in the near future.
Hey, Punit, that was really a great example of just the power of the ecosystem. And it's clear that our ecosystem continues to play really a very strategic role in helping our joint customers mitigate these types of challenges. So just very impressive to see that. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of the main session for today's announcement. I'd really like to thank each of you for spending your most precious commodity, which is ultimately your time, with us and to learn about these new innovations. It's clear that in our highly digitized and dispersed world, application performance is of the utmost importance to ensuring productivity. When it comes down to it, really none of us can afford any interruptions. And I would like really to continue the dialogue with each of you. First and foremost, as we've discussed previously, really at the top of the hour, so just in a couple minutes, we have the technical breakout, which will automatically start in your screen. But you don't have to just end the discussion there. By going to zscaler.com, you can request a demo of ZDX and really see the power of this tool and this technology for yourself. Now, beyond this discussion, we have a lot of exciting things that are in the works, and I'd really like to invite each of you to join our next event, which will happen really just in a short month from now. The focus of that event is on Zero Trust for cloud workloads. Now, you can find out more information and register for this event by, again, going to zscaler.com/cloud protection. So I know that I'll see all of you there, and I encourage all of you to go ahead and register for that discussion as well. Now, as a very final request, you'll see a survey within the tool, and I ask each of you, if you wouldn't mind, please just take that next step and complete the survey. Ultimately, it helps us ensure that we're delivering the right content that can help you do your jobs better. So with that, I thank each of you for attending this portion of the event. But again, don't leave just yet, because in just a short 4 minutes, right at the top of the hour, the technical breakout will start. But with that, signing off here, thank you from all of us.
I hope you found the insights from our customer speakers, partners, and Zscaler executives to be insightful. I would like to thank our speakers who participated in the event today. And now I would like to provide a deeper introduction to the Zscaler Digital Experience. I'm Dhaval Sharma, VP of Product Management at Zscaler. I have been at the company for almost 10 years, and I'm responsible for all our emerging products, including ZDX, 5G security, cloud operations platform, identity, etc. Over the next 45 minutes, we would be going over what is ZDX, significance of ZDX in today's modern workplace. Then we would double click on new enhancements that we announced during the session today, covering a few example use cases. Then we would spend time reviewing workflows that customers are using to operationalize ZDX, followed by a live demo towards the end. During the event, we talked at a high level about the Zscaler Zero Trust Exchange, how it securely connects users regardless of location or where they're coming from. In addition to security, user experience is also a key pillar of today's modern workplace enablement. Zscaler Digital Experience, which is a pillar product line of Zscaler, like ZIA and ZPA services, is focused on enhancing the digital experience of your employees and users. If you think in terms of solution that Zscaler enable for our customers, ZDX squarely fits into enhancing and ensuring more modern workplace and their user experiences. It also makes sure, as you are bringing users back to work and you are providing them connectivity from branches or from your remote offices, they have superior experience compared to when they were working from home or at-bar experience. When you think about why there is a need for a digital experience product line, digital transformation, as we know, creates monitoring gaps. As we move more applications to SaaS, such as Office 365, Salesforce, or applications in public cloud in general, we are relying more and more on the public internet to provide us desired performance and connectivity. Moreover, your users are everywhere, not sitting in a corporate office most of the times. They are sitting working from their home, sitting in a coffee shop. This leads to a big problem for IT organizations. Infrastructure that was typically in your full control is now all over the map. Every user who works from home office or a coffee shop is seen as an extension of your corporate network. And your corporate footprint and SaaS applications cannot be instrumented with monitoring scripts. For example, you cannot go and tell Microsoft that you would like to run a SNMP MAP onto your SharePoint Online server. So all you have to do or end up doing is you have to rely on SaaS providers' tools that provide SLA reports, and you do not own this infrastructure anymore. So in terms of the current monitoring landscape, most of our customers have relied on a wide variety of monitoring tools that were purchased and deployed by different IT teams. Example, application teams would deploy APM tools, and as apps moved to internet, they started relying on SaaS monitoring tools that come packaged with SaaS services. Network teams deployed their own network monitoring tool, monitoring links, health of network equipment, and service desk, IT help desk teams are relying on broader ITIM tools that rely on intelligence from various other tools to take an action on it. End result is that service desk teams end up with a wide variety of monitoring tools that are living in their own silos, and there are different owners for them. And these applications and these tools do not share the context. You end up with too many alerts, which usually show up too late and are false positives, leading to manual correlation of metrics in help desk tools and creating blind spots for enterprise IT teams. So traditionally, when we owned the security and networking stack, apps and infra lived in our own data center and within our perimeter. We were able to instrument monitoring tools wherever we needed, and that provided us with the desired visibility, whether it was data path to the application from users or within the apps and data center. Enterprise network and security is transforming to be aligned with a zero trust architecture, where there is no backhaul, no centralized security stack, but a distributed edge-driven security framework where users connect over the internet to the application and security literally follows the users through the nearest edge. In this world, a lot of siloed monitoring tools that we have built and deployed over years are not effective anymore. So a new monitoring approach is needed, where your users are not sitting in office, and you should not rely on centralized monitoring that you deployed in your data center or in a provider's cloud, but monitoring systems that view and monitor and manage the user experience from every single user's perspective, whether they are in office, home, or at a coffee shop. So traditionally speaking, we have instrumented these apps in our data centers or in our network. Now, these applications are becoming more and more ineffective in today's world. So when you think about what it really means to monitor end user experience, right? There are three variables that could impact end user experience, which is network, application, and endpoint. And as we saw in the previous slides, you typically have deployed multiple tools to monitor these three variables. From an organization perspective today, when a user is working from home and they are having an issue with a collaboration application, that could be a result of an end user device or a problem on their first mile network, their home Wi-Fi, or the application itself. So having that single pane of glass is something which is very important. This is exactly where digital experience monitoring or DEM comes into the picture. And a lot of traditional monitoring capabilities and tools are consolidating into DEM in today's world. When we think about what Zdx does in this space, we squarely focus on these three variables and various metrics that align with these three variables. So when you think about application monitoring, and let's take example of an internet-based SaaS application like SharePoint. So from an end user perspective, page load time, that is how long it takes for the objects on the page to be loaded, is a good enough indicator of end user experience. Now, when you think about a collaboration application like Microsoft Teams or Zoom, that page fetch time is not a true indicator of end user experience. So you have to rely on more real-time metrics like MOS score, audio or video latency or jitter. So monitoring these application metrics should be in context of the application that you are monitoring and measuring. Likewise, when you think about network is not about monitoring performance of network from data centers or from certain vantage points, but in today's world, when every user is essentially connecting to the destination directly over the internet, you have to figure out what is causing a delay or latency in the data path. That could be users' home Wi-Fi, that could be the egress ISP that users are using at their home or coming from the corporate network, or it could be the upstream ISP that Zscaler is using to connect you to your destination. You need to understand every single hop on the data path and where suboptimal routing is happening and latency is being added. Likewise, health of that endpoint is also equally important. If your CPU and memory is running high, that could also cause undue delay in terms of application performance. So when you look at all these metrics, they all contribute towards a scoring framework that Zscaler has built, which we call as Digital Experience Score or Zdx Score. It's a value between 0 to 100, and it is computed for every single user in your organization for every single device they are using. Score is a quantitative framework that quantifies the user experience, and it can tell you whether the problems that your users are facing are systematic problem, they are localized problem, or they are geo-specific problem. The score is also relative to a user. So one of the key challenges that we have seen organizations struggling with traditional monitoring tools is you need to set up you need to know what is an indicator of good performance versus a bad performance. And that is very difficult to understand when you have tens or hundreds of applications that your employees are using. Zdx takes a slightly different approach in this area. Instead of you setting up those thresholds, we benchmark and baseline every single user's experience from every device they're coming. So me connecting to an Office 365 tenant in Seattle data center, being a West Coast user in US, my connectivity times should not be more than 25 to 50 milliseconds. But if another Zscaler employee connects to the same tenant coming from Singapore, they would expect up to 200 milliseconds of latency connecting to the same application. So in that scenario, baselining and benchmarking every single user's behavior is very important, and that's exactly what Zdx does. Now, there are a rich set of metrics that we collect behind the scene. Think of score like a thermometer. It tells you if a user or if a location or an application is showing symptoms of bad user experience. If you see that, you can actually double-click and look at various metrics in context of the application as well. When you think about digital experience score, things that could impact an application, we look at a lot of metrics from an application perspective, like page fetch time, server response time, or DNS resolution time. We look at packet loss latency at every single hop, including user's home network, and we look at the health of their devices like CPU, memory, in a 5-minute time slice. So you get a more real-time troubleshooting picture of what's happening in your corporate network. Now, one question that a lot of our customers ask then is, what does it take to deploy Zdx, and how do I operationalize it? Actually, Zdx is one of the fastest growing product in our entire product portfolio. And the reason for that is it is actually the simplest product to deploy if you are already a Zscaler customer. And if you have deployed our client connector, which is our unified agent, which is used with Zscaler Internet Access and Private Access, it doesn't take much to deploy Zdx beyond that. All it takes is to enable a few monitoring profiles for key applications, for which we have provided pre-built templates in the product. And the moment you enable these monitoring probes, our client on user's computer would start sending these probes to the apps with full user context, as our agent is already authenticated with your corporate directory. One of the major advantage of deploying Zdx and not yet another monitoring tool is it has literally zero impact on the end user. They don't need to deploy another agent. They don't need to basically re-authenticate with service or click to enable a browser plugin. All of this is already built into the agent that they have. Once our customers have the license, with the click of a button, Zdx functionality could be enabled with less than 1% impact on the user's device itself. You can choose to deploy it for your entire fleet or do it group by group from your Active Directory using a config knob in our Client Connector portal. End users, Client Connector will start showing digital experience as you see in this slide, and there's no further action required from an end user perspective. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Zdx is one of our fastest growing product. These are some stats that give you an idea about the scale that we are at which we are monitoring user experience for about 2 million users across the globe. And we are collecting about 6 billion telemetry points that are collected every day, which essentially means we are collecting a lot of data on end user experience issues, which we are using now to train ML models in our product to understand when score drops, what is the potential use case that led to that score drop. With a click of a button, you can understand why score was dropping and look at rich underlying metrics as well. Today we made a few announcements during the event on new innovations that we have brought to the Zscaler Digital Experience product. Now let's take a look at those innovations and what it means for you if you are a Zscaler customer, and if you are already a Zdx customer, how you can use these enhancements. There are 3 areas where we have made announcements in the event today. First and foremost, UCaaS monitoring. All of us have been working from home in the last 18 months. And we are using collaboration platforms like Microsoft Teams or Zoom, and getting visibility into these applications is something that Zscaler has been providing from day one. We provide you full network path visibility. You can go to the front door of the application, but with the recent enhancements we have made, we can now actually give you meeting level details, including the attendees and their individual experience for video, voice, and latency for their sharing, content sharing as well. We are also enhancing our platform to provide visibility into Zero Trust architecture, which is one of the key requirements that we have been tracking with many of you. And this is uniquely differentiating compared to pure play monitoring tools where there is no visibility into application that you make go invisible on internet by adopting a ZTNA-based architecture. And third capability is more of extension of our platform or existing set of capabilities by doing much deeper integration with our ecosystem partners such as Microsoft, Zoom, and ServiceNow. So let's double click on what we are doing in terms of broader UCaaS monitoring. So the biggest challenge that organizations face today with UCaaS applications is that every user is spending too much time on them. And when users are not able to collaborate with each other, whether this is due to bad audio quality or the sharing content is not visible or it's freezing, end users are not happy. They open a service desk ticket, service desk people will take a look at what is potentially going wrong in terms of signals that are coming from, for example, like laptop or desktop monitoring tools. They will pick up some telemetry from network data path. And if they can't understand what's going wrong, they will go and talk to their Microsoft Teams admin who will take a look at the call quality dashboard, or they will look at their Zoom metrics to figure out was there any problem on the application side. It just takes too much time. It's not scalable framework. And there's no context that is being shared. If I, as a user, am opening a ticket with the service desk, that context might not be at the network level or at the application level. So it creates a big visibility gap, a lot of complexity that is very difficult to navigate for level 1, level 2, or even level 3 engineers. So if you think about how these different teams or personas within your organization were solving these problems by looking at different kind of tools or metrics, this was creating a lot of silos that were not talking to each other, and there was very little context shared between them. What we are doing now with our recent enhancements is that we are bringing the application level telemetry by integrating with the APIs that we are integrating with Microsoft and Zoom, and getting the call quality dashboard that provides meeting level context in the same view where we are capturing user context, application context, and device context. So this gives you high fidelity alerts when something goes wrong. You don't need to look at 5 different consoles, and all the telemetry data that you care from an end user perspective in order to troubleshoot their problem is now in a single place. So in this slide, you're basically looking at some of the metrics that we collect from endpoint, network, application already. What we are doing now is enhancing that integration by introducing API-based monitoring that we get specifically from your tenant to get MOS score, audio, video latency, and jitter, sharing latency, and overlay that information in context of user on their timeline. So if I have opened a ticket at 10 a.m. in the morning, you can look at our data within ZDX system at that time, and you can see if user was on a Teams call or on a Zoom call, what was their latency that we are getting from the application side, but also the network path and endpoint metrics in a single place. So that data gets automatically correlated in a 5-minute slice, and it gives you option to do real-time troubleshooting, or you can go as back as 2 weeks to look at specific events in the past, or benchmark the performance with a user in the past and get their experience. So in this view, what you can see is that when I look at the call quality dashboard for our own Zscaler corporate tenant, you can see that in addition to the global view from where our employees are coming, you also have a meeting level view. You can understand who these employees are, who were in this meeting, what kind of audio gear they were using, and what was their ZDX score in context of the MOS score itself. Now, let's talk a bit about visibility into Zero Trust environment. Let's take a step back and understand why this is important. One of the key intent of adopting a Zero Trust-based architecture is to make your application namespace or your apps go invisible or dark on the internet. As you think about that architecture, A lot of monitoring tools that rely on visibility or data path to these applications go completely ineffective in a zero trust architecture. So your apps, name servers, your users which are sitting behind the zero trust architecture or a SDP gateway are completely invisible, even if you have an agent running on the computer. So when users are having problem connecting to a private application, or let's say to SAP running in your data center, IT teams are completely blindsided. So in order to overcome these visibility gaps, where you have no ability to look at the network path, you have no visibility on the latency or jitter on the data path, and if there is a downstream ISP or even within your network, if there's any form of suboptimal routing which is happening, it's very difficult to understand those scenarios. What we are doing with the recent enhancement is, without compromising the principles of zero trust, we are essentially instrumenting ZDX probing all along the data path, starting from the client on the service edges in Zscaler Cloud, or even your private service edge, your app connectors or the SDP gateways, and your application. Something that I have noticed in the last couple of years, especially our customers who move from a traditional VPN to a zero trust based architecture, due to a lot of end user experience issues happen due to latency on customers' network between application connector and the application. So without having visibility into this data path, it's very difficult to understand where the problem is happening. This slide gives you an overview of where exactly the problems are happening at every single hop on the data path. You can see we can start at the user device, we can look at the egress ISP, we can look at Zscaler infrastructure in the data path, and then the ISP that connects the user to their application connector, and from the connector to the destination. So this view is something that is critical to solve the problem that end users are experiencing today well. And we'll cover more details on this during the demo and show you how this works in the real world as well. And finally, the third area, which is enhancing our capabilities by doing much deeper integration with our partner ecosystem. So as you heard during the session from speakers from Microsoft and Zoom, our integration with these platforms, especially exchanging telemetry on Teams as well as Zoom APIs, and some of the work we are doing with Microsoft on the big data analytics platform, is giving us unprecedented level of visibility and scale that is very difficult to get at by organizations if they had to do it on their own. And finally, ServiceNow is one of the pioneer in the space of ITSM and ITOM workflows. By doing our integration tightly with ServiceNow, we are able to provide richer context to any tickets that users are opening. We are able to reduce the number of tickets that users might open with some of the integration that we are doing, and also reduce mean time to recovery and mean time to detection significantly as well. So these ecosystem partner integrations are key to deploying ZDX and operationalizing ZDX as well. And we are very proud to partner with Microsoft, Zoom, and ServiceNow during this phase. Now let's take a look at some real-world examples and use cases where our customers have used ZDX to solve their day-to-day problems. I'm going to focus on 3 such use cases. We'll show you that during the demo, but we have many such scenarios that we have our customers keep using ZDX to solve their day-to-day problems today. Let's look at a global SaaS outage, for example. There was some of you might already know who are a Salesforce customer. There was a big Salesforce outage on May 11th between 2 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. So this is a view from Zscaler's corporate tenant, which our own NOC team had been using. And a few minutes after the outage happened, this is the view that we captured. So the map view that you're looking at is essentially showing all Zscaler employees, everyone working from home. The dots are showing bad score in terms of red dots and orange dots. You are hardly seeing any green dot. This is when the problem just started happening at that time. Each red dot is a location where Zscaler employees are located with their correct location gained from OS, latitude, longitude information. Color represents the baseline performance, showing major application issues. What you see here is this issue which started at around 2 p.m. and about 2:15 we started getting basically some feedback from our sales employees that they are having Salesforce connectivity problem. Around 4 p.m. that day, the CTO of Salesforce made an announcement. There was a health update from Salesforce portal that the users are having problem because Salesforce is having connectivity problems across the globe. What we saw in terms of our own ZDX portal is that the ZDX score for Salesforce for all of our employees, which typically stays in high 70s to 80s, started dropping significantly. Now, what it also was representing was bad score across the globe. And we have an alert which we use for all critical applications that our employees are using. So Salesforce is one such example. So the latency value for Salesforce grew significantly during this window. And this created an alert. So we have integrated the output of alerts from Salesforce into our corporate PagerDuty workflows, which notified our operations team, which in turn notified IT, and IT sent a note out to our entire sales organization that Salesforce is not available, and they kept them updated afterwards with the incident. So instead of getting hundreds of tickets from hundreds of salespeople across the globe, we only received 5 to 6 tickets. And by the time most of the salespeople were going to complain, they already received a notice from Zscaler IT. So it kind of not only reduced the number of tickets, but also informed users who were aware of an ongoing issue. This is one example of a global SaaS outage. Now, let's take a look at a wider service provider outage that impacted users in certain region of the world only. So this is tied to a Verizon fiber outage that happened earlier this year in January. Not only can ZDX detect global and regional app issues, it can also see ISP issues affecting performance. This was Verizon fiber cut, as I said. And a lot of our own employees who are based in East Coast, you can see at a city level, their score started dropping. So at this point, these dots are like cities or towns from our employees are connecting. And you can see not only for a specific application, but for all applications, their score started dropping. And the ZDX score dropped to 0, and employees were unable to access any application during this time compared to other employees who were coming from other regions or other service provider. So regional service provider level issues is something you can take a look through ZDX as well. And finally, let's take a look at a home Wi-Fi problem in a employee's in a specific employee's use case. In this case, this employee was having a weak Wi-Fi signal. Now, if ZDX is also able to identify when the users may be having home Wi-Fi issues. Here we see slow app performance in the purple bar corresponding to high latency. So when looking at where that latency is coming from, we can see high latency between the endpoint and the access point, and then a corresponding drop in the Wi-Fi signal strength. ZDX can also set alerts when Wi-Fi drops down for the user. So let's say if your executives are traveling and you want to make sure that your exec users have good enough experience, and you want to monitor their Wi-Fi signal strength in a hotel or even when they're working from home to make sure that their performance doesn't take a hit, you can set alerts for specific set of users or geos or countries or for all your users as well. So these are 3 specific examples, one focusing on a global event, then second focusing on a regional event, and third, which is very specific to a user home Wi-Fi scenario that we were able to troubleshoot with ZDX. All right, now let's take a look at certain workflows that our customers have used to operationalize ZDX. As you saw during my presentation earlier, ZDX is very simple to deploy. It literally takes a few clicks, and if you're a customer who has already pushed agent to the user devices, it could be enabled in less than a couple of hours for all your users or entire workforce. But in order to operationalize ZDX, our customers also give ZDX in hands of their service desk, as well as their workspace teams. So a couple of workflows that we have seen our customers use on a daily basis is first workflow helps in reducing the mean time to detection and mean time to resolution, as well as reducing the number of escalations that might happen. So if you look at the bar that represents number of tickets that users are opening otherwise, whenever a user is having a Zoom problem, or if their device is hanging, or if they are having connectivity problem, they will just go ahead and open a ticket. Now, when your service desk person who's looking at Zdx Console, when they come there, they can just by looking at the Zdx Console, they can see what is the problem and where is the problem. Then a human analyst can gradually rule out very quickly if this is a global, regional, or a specific office or a user home location issue. And a lot of tickets could be resolved there. If it is an individual focused issue, right, there are a lot of telemetry which is available in Zdx that can tell you if it is a specific user home Wi-Fi problem, is it a problem with their desktop health, for example, if some event is running with high CPU memory all the time and that is causing your critical applications to hang up or freeze. You can look at VPN performance or your Wi-Fi problems, like if you are in a 5 gigahertz band and you switch to 2.4 gigahertz band, your throughput will decrease. Or is it the application itself? Like if sometimes service providers or SaaS services have issues in their backbone due to which they would be adding latency on their backbone. You can rule out a lot of issues that could be impacting end users. So about 80 to 90% of tickets could be closed just by analyzing the data within Zdx, and number of escalations that you had to do to your network team, security team, or to your desktop team can go down significantly. At times when those escalations will happen, then your teams will have a lot of rich content and context from Zdx that can help them proactively troubleshoot these issues. Second key workflow is to proactively reduce number of new tickets. Now, if you, like I gave you example of Salesforce in our scenario, we saw a widespread outage of Salesforce, like entire dashboard was red, right? And if that happens, you can exactly see which application is being impacted. In last 1 year, we have seen outages with Salesforce, with Office 365 in September last year. All of us are aware of the big Facebook outage that went on for many hours earlier this month. And what you can also understand is if there is a problem which is coming from a specific ISP, a lot of time if customers are not setting up traffic forwarding to Zscaler correctly, if your primary or backup tunnel is not set up, we can identify those kind of issues. And if it is a desktop related problem, like if a new patch update went into your antivirus and that is causing a spike in your CPU, you can understand that. So a lot of tickets which are otherwise generated, you can avoid them if you have visibility into these issues in real time. Now let's talk a little bit about why Zdx is different from a lot of traditional monitoring tools that are out there. So first and foremost, as I mentioned earlier, Zdx is an independent product line, but it is built on the same platform that we through which we provide internet access and private access services. We have built a global scalable infrastructure with 150 points of presence across the globe. And we leverage our cloud to scale this monitoring capabilities as well. For example, if you start sending millions of probes to a SaaS service like Microsoft or Salesforce, they will start blacklisting your IP. We leverage our cloud to stitch the views together by virtue of you can send millions of probes to us, but from our cloud we send selected set of probes to the destination. We do a reverse lookup to your egress, and we stitch these views together for every single user to give you full hop by hop view for every single user. And scaling the level of big data analytics for billions of the telemetry points that we are collecting, we provide you a single pane of glass from where you can click and get real-time updates on every single user experience across the globe. Now, second key part is understanding the user experience in their context. So a lot of time, end users are not in, end user context is missing from monitoring perspective. Even if you install an agent or a browser extension, those do not give you the user level context. Since our agent is authenticated, we know who the user is, where the user is coming from. We can provide detailed visibility around the user context as well. Also, monitoring, as I mentioned, is very siloed typically. So having a product like Zdx, which gives you rich workflows and data which is relevant not only from a networking perspective, but also from workspace, security operations, as well as desktop operation, it gives you a single pane through which every team in your organization can get context as well. And finally, one big advantage is no need to deploy new agent, virtual machine, infrastructure, or anything to get that level of visibility. As an organization, Zscaler has only one agent that provides connectivity to our various services. It has digital experience monitoring built into it. And if you are a large enterprise or an enterprise, you want to avoid the agent fatigue. So getting all this rich set of capabilities from a single agent stands Zscaler apart compared to pure play monitoring tools as well. Now, during the last section of this session today, we are going to walk you through a few live demos. The first demo that I want to show you is how you can use ZDX to troubleshoot user experience in real time. All right, so in order to demonstrate the use cases that I'm going to log into our corporate tenant at Zscaler and walk you through the use case in which I'm going to troubleshoot a user's experience issue that I was working with in the morning. Now, before we go there, I would like to give you a tour of Zdx Console. As you can see, this is the main dashboard of the product, and the dashboard is laid out in context of the applications that we are monitoring today. So there are predefined applications like Box, Microsoft Teams, but I have added certain custom applications, including monitoring our own corporate website. You can see there are certain private applications like our engineering build server that we are monitoring through ZDX. And the moment I click on any application, the underlying map view also gets refreshed. So what you can see here is for Box.com, for example, I have Zscaler employees in last 2 hours, which are coming from various parts of the world, like about 400 employees coming from California, about 200 employees active in India. If I change this view to 48 hours, that will include all the users who were active at least once during last 48 hours. And for example, you can see India had about 1,000 users coming in, and California has about 470 users coming in. Now, in order to drill deeper here, let's pick a SaaS application, for example. Let's pick Zoom. And I'm going to select a smaller time window. Let's say I'm going to pick last 6 hours. And what I'm seeing here is overall my Zoom score worldwide looks pretty healthy, right? And there are a few regions here where I see orange dot. And one of the users that I was working with actually was having a problem connecting to Zoom in the morning. So what we can do here is we can select certain regions where those users might be located to get the context of the user as well. In this case, I'm selecting 3 locations here. Now, in this case, what I'm seeing is I have 3 US states. I can click here and see individual towns or cities from where the users are coming from and go down to the city level. But what I'm going to do here is click on Washington State, where I have 25 users. Overall health of Zoom is pretty good in here. But I do see 4 users who have a poor score. And the user with whom I was actually investigating the problem in the morning is Clint in our customer success team. You can see that he's a road warrior. He's not coming from a corporate location. He's coming from White Salmon in Washington, and he's using MacBook Pro. Now let's take a look at his actual device. So first thing that you will notice here is we fingerprint each device. So I can click on to view more device information, which tells you what kind of hardware he's using, what kind of networks he's connected to, including virtual network interfaces that are set up on his device, and what is the operating system footprint on his device. All of that detail is captured here. Currently, I'm monitoring Zoom application for him. I can see details of his ISP and DNS provider, for example. What I'm observing here is his overall score for Zoom in last 6 years is bad through the day. When I click here, let's say at 12:50 p.m., I actually see that score has a page fetch time value of 1800 milliseconds. Then I can see that server response time is fairly high as well. Another factor that I want to rule out is this a Zoom specific problem, or this user is having problem with all their applications? I'm going to pick a couple more applications here. And when I pick a
couple more applications, I'm actually able to verify that his score is bad even for other SaaS applications here. So in this case, SharePoint also is having a bad experience score, and typically SharePoint page fetch time values are less than 2000 milliseconds. In this case, these are very, very high. And we can look at the availability of application. Now, in order to troubleshoot his performance issue, I actually am going to look at the cloud path, which gives me network level view of this user from his home all the way to the destination. What I'm able to see here is that from this user's MacBook, which is using from his home, he's hitting the egress, which is a Ego Wi-Fi at his home, and then traffic is hitting the Spectrum internet, and from there the traffic comes to Zscaler data center, and you see the latency numbers on every single hop. You can click and expand it to, or you can see, for example, from Zscaler data center in Seattle to the tenant on which our Teams is hosted is not very far, and from Zscaler to Microsoft, traffic is being offloaded in less than 5 milliseconds. So the thing that stands out to me here is that even before the traffic is egressing from his home to Spectrum, actually there is 76 millisecond latency here. And I can see this data in the command line view as well. And it tells me from the client to the egress, to Zscaler data center, to the destination, what is the latency on every single hop. So in this case, if I pick another time stamp here, for example, it has 133 end-to-end millisecond latency. You can see consistently the latency even before the traffic has hit the egress is running fairly high. So it clearly seems to be a local issue on his Wi-Fi, though his Wi-Fi signal strength is full 100%, and his device seems to be healthy as well. But overall, the latency is due to most likely due to high network interference on his local circuit, for example. And you can also see this data sliced across 5-minute time, for example. You can see device events that are taking place on his device, for example. So, for example, his network interface, when it changes, you can see all the changes that are going on. If there was a software update pushed here, you can see those devices, those kind of updates in that real-time event. And when this problem is happening, we can actually do a remote troubleshooting. We can enter into a remote troubleshooting mode remotely as well. So this capability called deep tracing here, you can remotely initiate a live troubleshooting session on the user's device, where you can basically pick an application, and you can pick, if user has multiple devices, you can pick the device from where they have opened the ticket. And typically we don't do thresholds in the product, but when you're troubleshooting things, you might want to look at thresholds. So I'm not going to run a new troubleshooting session, but we did this for a user in organization recently. If I look at their data, you can see that in this case, the probing goes even more granular at every 1-minute interval. We can see the same level of hop-by-hop information, and we can also capture the process level data, which tells you whether it's which processes are consuming more CPU, memory, network I/O. That gives you a good idea if there is a specific process which is going beyond certain thresholds and causing problems. So that's a quick demo of how you can go from a global view to a user-specific view and understand what is causing slowness or performance issues in their scenario. At this point, I would like to turn it over to Javier Rodriguez, who is Director of Product Management in Zscaler, to walk you through next set of demos.
Hello, this is Javier. I'm going to tell you about the integration we've done for Microsoft Teams with Graph API to be able to read call records, part of our unified communication as a service plan. So I will start telling you about the configuration. It's very simple. As part of this new application, Teams Call Quality, we need to define a tenant that just needs to be authenticated by one of your administrators and consent to the permissions that we require, which is reading profiles and call records. It's as simple as that, and we are using the paradigm of CASB, exactly the same thing. Once we have the tenant defined, then we will get records of calls, and it will be shown in this way in the application. So this is our PM tenant. You can see some meetings we've done here. As any application, we use the score. We plot in the map the locations of the users and the regions, and we introduce this new object called impacted meetings, where we display the score of the meeting and they are listed by score. We also show impacted regions, impacted geolocations as usual, and in this case we're using the transport relay probe because that's the one that manages the UDP flows, and that's what we want to monitor with this new application. We also added this other tab called meetings, which includes the list of all of the meetings. From here I can drill down. If I want to see who are the participants in that meeting, I can drill down. In this meetings tab, we list all the meetings that we've recorded, ordered by time, and including the participants. So if I want to see the details of a meeting, I just need to drill down, and then we include here a little bit more information. We calculate the average score of the meeting and also display the MOS. We calculate the MOS using ITU R factor formula, and we use metrics relevant for VoIP people such as packet loss, jitter, and latency. In the participants list, you can see here it was 4 plus 1 guest user, and then we have multiple sessions. Now every participant has its data for the meeting, the score and the MOS that we calculate. We indicate the IP address it comes from, location, and audio. But the beauty of the integration is that if I want to see what's going on with this 0.1 score, I can drill down into the user in context, in this case me, and then we load the new metrics that we pull from Graph API. Those are related to the real traffic flow, audio, video, and screen sharing, and we get for the 3 of them latency, jitter, and loss, average and max, and this comes from real traffic. And then as usual we have our cloud path, and our cloud path has been improved to collect metrics every 5 minutes so that we have multiple data points during a call, and it displays as usual the path to the transport relay, and we will be able to pinpoint where there are problems related to packet loss or latency, which typically affect the quality of the call. As in any other application or user details page, we still collect data from the user laptop, CPU, etc., and with deep tracing we can see the process level consumption of Teams in case we think the CPU is a problem. So this is the integration we've done with Microsoft Graph API to bring in context, as I said, to the application. We bring the meetings objects with participants, and we display a new type of score which is calculated using jitter, loss, and latency from the real traffic. Now I'm going to move to show you the third part of the new features, which is the integration with CPA. Very exciting, and the goal is to help troubleshoot the world of Zero Trust. Zero Trust means security, therefore visibility. Having visibility is a luxury, and with CDX that's what we bring. We lighten the dark world, and we give you the end-to-end visibility required. So now I'm going to show you the configuration for CPA. We see here Jira. Jira is one of the internal apps that we are monitoring through CPA, or that we have access through CPA, and the configuration is very simple. It just requires, like any other web probe, a URL, and like any other cloud path, a host name. We don't need to add any CPA specific parameter. We don't have to go and check the dashboard. We did the work for you so that the configuration is just trivial. And then once this telemetry is collected, or once the policy is pushed, the client connector starts probing, and then we will have in our performance dashboard the tile. I have already selected here with Jira. we will have this dashboard where we plot, display in the map the performance by country, or the performance in this case. I'm gonna show you in the US one green cluster and the new additions, and then I'm gonna show you also a red score and troubleshoot there, and then I'm also gonna show you the UK performance. Let me expand the time frame. So in the UK usually it's green, you can see, and I'm gonna show you a very interesting finding that we've seen thanks to CDX. So down here, this is an internal application. We calculate the score, we average, and here you can also see the page freeze time, which is one of the main factors in our formula. And the response time is around 2.0 seconds on average. So if I now go to a user, my colleague Jonathan is having good score. You can see 88 on average. It's pretty good. The response time is around 300 milliseconds. It's fast. And if we go to the cloud path, that's where we added the new visibility, the full visibility. Now you can see end-to-end what's going on. You can see the CPA tunnel. You can see from the client to the service edge, and from the service edge to the connector, and finally the application. In this case, it's pretty good latency. You can see it's 12 milliseconds only between the service edge and the connector, and it's very low latency in the data center. We also added new legs. Remember, a leg is an abstraction that identifies an interesting network segment where we want to measure latency and understand latency variations in a graph over time. There is a lot more legs now with CPA. There are more components, and this is not the most complex scenario. When we introduce private brokers, this can go full-time show. But in any case, we've now instrumented the full path from the service edge up to the application in your data center. So this is a user with good score. If I now select another one with not so good score, 22, remember these are both in the US, so the baseline that we use is the US baseline, and we compare users. So let's see why this score is not so good. In terms of performance or speed, this user is getting around 1.5 seconds, which is considerably higher than the 300 milliseconds we saw before. So that's why the score is worse for this user than the previous one, because in comparison, this one is having a not so good experience. And why is that? Well, when we come to the new cloud path, we can see the full path, and clearly here in yellow, we are already seeing where the high latency is happening. It's between their egress, in this case spectrum, to the CPA service edge. There is a little bit of latency on the Wi-Fi that we could also analyze. Remember, we have a lot of data there, but in this case, it easily explains why the performance for this user is not as good as the previous user. And if I expand here in the spectrum, you can see a hop of 60 milliseconds, another one 26, etc., etc. Finally, I want to show you a third user. This is a real demo, so let me load it. This is one of our colleagues in the UK, and we're monitoring Jira. So this user is having a good score, very similar to the previous one, so that's good. But when you look at the response time, it's 2.2 seconds, which is even worse than the user that we were displaying as bad the score in the US. So why is this score good? Remember, we baseline by location and we compare to the users. So we're trying to learn what is the normal here. And the normal here is this is the speed that most of the guys in the UK are getting. So that defines the score. But it's pretty high. Why? So when we look at the cloud path, thanks to the new visibility, you can see the end-to-end path. My colleague is in the UK. You can see here England as the location. You can see that he has pretty good internet connectivity, low latency. And then the service edge is close to our colleague. It's 7 milliseconds away in the UK. But then it connects to an app connector We are going to include here the location of the connector. We realize that it's going to be very useful information, so you're going to be able to see it. This connector happens to be in our office in India. And it's chosen because it's the closest one to the UK, based on the policy of CPA. However, the application is in the US, and then from India to the US, we are experiencing an additional 253 milliseconds. So totally, this user is seeing an experience of 600 milliseconds, which is not far from a satellite type of latency. So by doing an optimization here and connecting the service edge in Europe to the broker in San Jose or San Francisco, this user would improve the experience, and we can optimize the deployment. So this is an interesting finding that we've seen with ZDX. And again, new integration, full end-to-end visibility. I can expand here, and I was telling you about India. You can see here the hub between GTT, and then it reaches Airtel, which is one of the ISPs in India. And back here, if I expand, we're also going to see the latency, in this case, in the internal network. So this is what I wanted to show you. First, the Microsoft Teams integration. Second, the CPA integration. And thanks for watching.
Thank you, Javier, for joining me to demonstrate the UCaaS monitoring and Zero Trust visibility use cases during the technical breakout session today. I hope you enjoyed the deep dive during the technical session and overall No Interruptions event with us. We would love to hear your feedback on the event, so please take a minute to complete the event survey in the chat window. We also have additional resources such as case studies, customer videos, and technical content on ZDX page on Zscaler.com website. I would like to thank you for joining us on behalf of Zscaler, and I look forward to seeing you in person soon.